We did a bunch-ish.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I'll just take it off later, but Idris Elba was cast as Deadshot.
An upgrade.
That's really cool. I don't know. There's nothing else really to say.
Yeah.
Now let's go to the one that I think I'm most excited about of this whole week because yeah. That Endgame trailer.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I didn't think they had another trailer in them. I thought they were going to stop. And then they gave us one. It's like, I still know nothing, and yet you gave me so much more.
It gives us everything and gives us nothing. It's a perfect trailer.
And I get the direct impression that anything we've seen is only happening within like the first half hour.
Well, okay, here's the thing. And this is where
not in the movie.
This is another instance where Screen Rant actually brought on a writer for real. They mentioned like this movie has to take place over some time because watch Black Widow's hair. It didn't change colors. It's growing out.
Yeah. Well, even in the Captain Marvel thing, it's blonde, and then in parts of this, it's red.
Mm-hmm.
It bounces back and forth a lot, and we've seen three Captain America costumes.
Yeah,
between the poster and the trailer.
I think the things that we've seen that are the latest in the timeline are like Hawkeye in that tunnel, Cap doing the angry face, and
them in the white suits.
Yes, and I think that's the beginning of the second.
I think Captain Marvel and Thor meeting is early.
Oh yeah.
Which there's apparently a lot of internet bullshit about that.
From what I understand about how Captain Marvel ultimately ends, then she gets there very early.
Yeah, well, it's very much like the Cap scene, the Ant-Man scene in Winter Soldier.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
They're very much the same thing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'd said.
Which was like, and that scene is a bookend on the first act. I would say that's like it's a button scene. It's like here's some extra stuff that we can show you. This is after a whole bunch of shit has gone down.
Exactly.
Well, I imagine all you've seen the theory that was banded around during the prior Endgame trailer that it looked like somebody was edited out of some of those scenes where it was Mark Ruffalo. So go ahead.
No, like I saw things where like either Ruffalo was edited out or Tony was edited in.
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the prior Endgame trailer where they were in some sort of field and there was a clear divide between, I think, Mark Ruffalo and Cap. And a lot of people were theorizing that's Captain Marvel was actually going to be in there. Yeah. And they just had to edit her out completely.
The question becomes, though.
I think that's Tony and...
go ahead.
That's Tony and...
Wait, Hunter had something ridiculous.
The question becomes, though, is how do we know any of them aren't Skrulls?
Oh, shut the fuck up!
Oh my god, I am already sick of the Skrull question of like who's been a Skrull the whole time. Guess what? None of them have. Okay, it's gonna be people you didn't know who are introduced very quickly who then become Skrulls. Okay, it's not Nick Fury. It's not Iron Man. Like,
no,
and also, where's Galactus?
That they won't be doing the scroll thing that we can discuss after we've all seen the film.
Yeah, Jackman's going to be in the after credits.
I know.
That's not out of the possibility anymore.
I was actually joking with Joe and Sean about the whole. Remember when we said like people keep hoping for the X-Men universe to get folded into fucking the MCU, but then like the monkey's paw finger goes down and surprise, it's Professor X and his weird crew of Legion mutants. And like I was like, how much would people lose their fucking minds like if in that instance, or even on Legion the TV show, like someone mouths off to Professor X and then like Hugh Jackman steps up and Professor X goes, "It's okay, James, calm down." I'm like, oh, that'd be pretty good. You guys should get away with that.
I would still love if they had this sense of humor that like they see into another universe and it's Hugh Jackman and he's about to say something and then just Ryan Reynolds just shoots him in the head and it just ends.
But yeah, back to the Endgame trailer. I love the fact that the way they just opened it with the scenes from the prior films, and the heavy
in our triumvirate.
Well, the heavy use of red in them.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, the two people they showed, they made a point to show getting dusted, like really hurt me. Like, because I don't stop to think about Falcon's expression when he's getting dusted, and like the way they showed this trailer, I'm like, oh my god, he looks horrified.
Yeah.
And then Scarlet Witch looks like, and Scarlet Witch, as Erik once pointed out, is like, it's relief because she's like, well, the reason I wanted to live is now dead. She's like, whatever.
Hey, Falcon's like, wait, you just dusted 2 of the 3 black people in this movie.
And I guess I actually read it. I saw an
Um,
interview with Anthony Mackie, and he said that the only direction he got from the Russos was, all right, like, this is your destiny. You're leaving Earth. What would you say? And I guess, like, his initial reaction was, Cap? That's it.
His reaction and Bucky's reaction are the best.
Oh, God. Yeah, because both of them are like,
great.
Steve? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because Panther like kind of like dies like in a bush.
Well, you don't even see T'Challa go, and T'Challa
Yeah,
is
but I
no
love-
cat.
and T'Challa is not.
I love Diana
T'Challa-
Guerrero so much.
The television some
God damn
chivalry,
it.
like just like
You son of a bitch.
Well, no, they're.
Died
They
like a
don't.
real cat
No,
he wandered on his own.
just by himself.
he didn't die underneath a porch.
No, he was
Because
in some, like,
Denai Guerrera is there, like right next to him, and you see her face the entire time.
Yeah, that's why his death is horrifying, because she's like, because he also is not acting like Bucky, Falcon, Groot, Peter,
the Groot
both
one is
Peters, and Drax and Mantis all have a reaction, and like T'Challa's like, nothing's wrong here. Get up. What's it called? Okoye. Let's go. This is nowhere to die.
Yeah, like Bucky goes like Steve, and then Peter goes like, I don't feel so well, Mr. Stark.
Yeah.
And Groot says, and I am Groot, Dad.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that
And,
was.
like,
Whoa.
T'Challa's the only one that doesn't say anything. He just kind of gives a look like, this is happening.
Yeah,
Diana
and like I think
Yeah.
Drax is one of the most horrifying because he's like Quill, like he's like, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
And
Because
Peter's and
every
Quill's
single-
their
All
Yeah.
the Guardians are dead except for Rocket and
Gamora.
Nebula.
Nebula. Get Nebula.
Every other Guardian's
Nebula?
dead.
Well, yeah.
Namora.
Yeah.
Nebula's still like she's still 50-50. In my-
Yeah,
that was-
Gamora's the one, and I think this goes into like some like speculation about people seeing Zoe Saldana in very specifically her Guardians 1 getup. I think
Oh, it's a time travel.
her thing might be explicitly being saved by time travel.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I actually, to go back to that trailer, I think the best scene is what's his name looking at the telephone pole of missing people.
Oh, Paul Rudd.
Oh, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, that was awesome.
Yeah,
Scott
that is like
Lang.
I was like,
good.
ooh, that's heavy.
I think
Here's
because
the
here's the
thing.
thing, I didn't
Someone
think
said
they
he
would
just
put
popped out.
Yeah, I didn't think there would be so
Yeah.
much emphasis on
He's in a lot
how
of
the
that trailer.
world is reacting to this, because like a lot of
Yeah.
big disaster movies don't bother to show you how the rest of the globe is handling it, and like
Oh,
or specifically like
Interesting.
specific aftermaths.
This
And
is the leftovers in the MCU.
This is a left,
Yeah.
yeah, and this is
Very
like
good.
you're like that
Yeah.
one shot of just the Statue of Liberty with just boats surrounding it. I'm like, because
D-boats.
I thought the thing, I was like,
Yeah.
planes would fall out of the sky, boats would crash into each
Yeah.
other, traffic would stop, people would get murdered in car crashes because there's no one driving these vehicles
Yeah.
that were in motion.
Well,
Like
It's-
infrastructures would
very-
fail in seconds. Like the
If you-
world would be in
Yeah.
complete chaos for days.
If you've ever
Like, we
read
get
Why
to
the Last
see-
Man, it's very much that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I'm
Like we get to see things that the leftovers could never actually show because of the budget, but like we're gonna probably get to see. I wouldn't be surprised if they open with like planes falling. Like we open with planes.
I feel like
and the pilot
anything with
disappearing.
planes is a little hard in movies.
I don't think they're going to show people straight up.
you can say like here's the thing. The one place I saw this in was the Japanese version of Pulse, and they make it a point to show a plane crashing in Japan because in Pulse people are dying in very similar ways. People are dying because they're basically turning into like piles of tar, and it's because they're. I don't know if who's seen Pulse. Anyone? The Japanese version, Cairo.
I didn't see the Japanese
we've
version.
talked about
It
before.
basically like the way you die in this universe is because ghosts are pouring in, and like they're filling you with such. The way I've interpreted it, they are filling you with such solitary depression that you cease to exist. It's not a death per se.
that's
You
rough.
blank from existence.
That sounds
And
like
you
most of my
become, like-
20s.
And you just become this like stain on the floor or the wall, wherever your last position was.
And in America, they made 4 Pulse
Yeah.
movies.
Wait, they
See,
fucking
Thor.
did?
Yeah, there's 4 of them.
No, they made 2, but still.
To jump
Oh
back,
my god!
It's-
I
I
think
watched the US remake and wanted to put my fucking head to the TV. I was so upset with that movie. but like it's a very similar kind of apocalypse because it's a quiet apocalypse. Because
see, to
like,
me, I think a heavier scene would be, instead of seeing planes, is Scott just walking through like a highway of like stopped cars.
Well, isn't there a scene at the end of? Isn't there a scene at the end of Ant-Man and Wasp where it's just the fucking ant playing the drums, but like in the background you just hear silence.
Like news. Yeah, it's like news weirdness. But like I think a better scene would just be like Scott being like hello, and
you mean Scott just basically reenacting the first 10 minutes of 28 Days Later?
Exactly. Yeah. That's like that is more horrifying if he's in like because that takes place in LA, right? The Ant-Man movies.
It takes place in San Francisco.
Okay, so like if he's in a major city like that and there's just like no one.
Honestly, I think what's going to happen there is he's going to go try and find his daughter and ex-wife.
Yeah.
And they're gone. Yeah.
And they're going to be gone. And then he's going to notice either on his way there all the missing posters. No, not dust. I think that's all going to be blown away at that point. Or he's going to see that after the fact and be like, wait a minute, and like start to kind of freak out.
I feel like he's like halfway through the movie introduction. Like they're doing all this stuff, and all of a sudden his beacon comes on, and he's like, "What the shit has happened?" You're like, "Wait, how are you alive? And how have you not known anything?" It's like I've been stuck in the quantum verse.
On that note, though, I do want to point out that the suit is similar to Hank Pym's original suit.
Yes, I said that in the group chat too. I was like, I feel like Scott and Tony will arrive at the team similar times.
Yeah, and because they're going to have to, because those two together, because Scott is going to have to put together what he knows from
the quantum verse,
the quantum realm, and Tony's got to basically like reverse engineer all of Hank Pym's work.
Yeah, and I think that those are like quantum verse suits, and those are the suits that they're going to jump through time. And I think Arlen, did you say that you think the Scales cap suit is the post time?
I think that's post. That's post time.
Yeah, because in the trailer we see like kind of Agent Cap, like just like gray suit, like that he had in the last movie.
Yeah. Well, and the logic from that comes from the fact that he's been rocking the same suit for so long.
It's like sort of the nomad. It's like sort of the nomad suit, but not really.
Yeah, but it's still the same suit that he had in Old.
Yeah. The thing is,
it's the same exact.
Sorry, go ahead, Arlen.
And his suits have been designed by Tony. So him and Tony being friends again allows him to get new suits, to get iterations on his.
The thing is, though, there's I'd seen some shots. I have two things I wanted to bring up. This was one of them. There's some shots from Infinity War that you can see on his banged up suit, like underneath.
The scales coming through.
Yes. So it's probably going to be like a slimming down of it. Well, no, it's going to be a slimming down. I think of that. Like it's going to be why have this cloth over it. The other thing. Oh, go ahead. I
was like, who is still alive with Tony? Because it's like Tony,
Nebula,
and Rocket,
it's
right?
Original,
Well, Rocket was on Earth.
No, Rocket's on Earth. It's Tony, Nebula, and
nobody. It's
Scott.
No,
Scott's away from them. But I mean, like, who's alive on Titan?
Oh! On
Tony
Titan.
And Nebula.
Tony and Nebula.
That's it. So she's not in that white suit thing.
Yeah, she was. She was in there.
The white suit. So
she's right next.
But
to Tony.
I don't know if that's actually her or Tony in those white suits.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah. Sean wasn't brought up a point. He's like, I can watch trailers all day. He's like, but I saw Infinity War, and he's like, and not in a bad way, but Marvel lied. Like they were deliberately deceptive.
I love it when they lie to me.
The other thing I wanted to bring up though was back to what you guys were saying about how this is actually showing the after effects of a huge event. Like I kind of feel like this is the Russos saying like, hey, this kind of is the way it should have been after the first Avengers and even after Age of Ultron. Like there was a lot of horrible shit that happened and it was never really touched on. Other than Tony having a little bit of PTSD.
I think that's as soon as they came into this studio with how they handled Civil War, that was their way of saying because they had Ross directly address it. They said, ever since you guys popped up on the radar, we have had catastrophe after catastrophe, and yes, you guys were fighting for us, but look at all the damage that was caused.
And also,
I could go back further to Winter Soldier, but it's all internal. It's
all. But it's also like
it's Steve not knowing what to do with
all the movies. They're responsible. Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 all have to do with Tony. Avengers 2 has to do with Tony.
Yeah.
like it's all that.
Well,
and then
that you can. Well, I think, and one of the best through lines this series has is Tony's paranoia makes him do things less rationally every time. And then Wanda shows up, and instead of and she actually isn't Wanda kind of freaked out by what she makes him see.
Yeah,
because she's
like, I didn't do anything to him. This just came out of him.
Yeah.
Also, she's powered by the gem, and how much of that was the gem telling him something that's true, and how much of it was an illusion is still up for debate. And if you,
but I also think that if you look at the world, the entire idea of super soldiers is all from Cap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Everything is, and is like also because of Cap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it all essentially started with those two, because it's Howard Stark, Tony Stark's dad is the one that also helped the Super Soldier Project, and Cap is the result of it. Mm-hmm. And then years down the line, Tony builds the fucking Iron Man suit, and then he kind of keeps pushing the envelope, and it's like the Batman theory, where it's like you push, they push, you push back, they push back harder, you push back even harder, right. And then before you know it, we have an array of homicidal maniacs who think this is fucking theater. We're willing to dress up as clowns and wear a question mark fucking suit and wear a lucha libre mask with a ventilator attached to it, and they want to blow up buildings and murder people. Like you turn crime fighting into a fucking stage show.
I mean, to really zero on an example that is in universe, Zemo and Red Skull don't experiment on Bucky and give him his increased strength with the cosmic cube if Captain doesn't happen.
Yeah.
If Cap doesn't successfully.
Now, is it was it the cosmic cube, or was it a reverse?
It's the cosmic cube, because it's the same laser blaster that we see Zemo and Red Skull kill those 3 Nazi dudes.
Winter Soldier gets experimented on by Red Skull and.
I thought they were basically doing the Hydra version of the Super Soldier serum, because it's essentially
Faust is canon.
They beam him with they shoot him with something, because remember when Cap finds him in that base, he's out of it.
Oh, he's definitely
experimenting. And you think that it's torture or something, but yeah, they were shooting him with power rays powered by the cube, and because of things that have been revealed in later movies about the cube. It's very clear that that's where Bucky's
So you're telling me is they were just, because I didn't think about this. You're telling me they were in theory just blasting him with power they got from some fucking dark corner of space that they probably didn't know where it came from or what it would do.
Well, but they didn't. But they didn't even think it came from space, because
that's scary shit.
Yeah,
they thought it was from the gods. That was
I'm saying is that gods. When you take away their perspective of it, what you're saying is that they took this artifact that we know is from space and is a gateway to space, like it's the space stone, that they were basically using it as a conduit to blast James Barnes with just bullshit from dark space, where the fuck it was, just to see what it would do to him.
Yeah,
it's insane. That makes his origin all the more terrifying.
Well, it's the same. It's basically similar to Hellboy. It's the same idea. The Nazis, which in fact they were really into mystical magic and the cults. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, was there anything else we wanted to touch on with the Endgame?
Well, I just wanted to bring up something. So I've been watching the trailer in the background, and you'll notice something if you go back to the very beginning. Tony is surrounded by sand, but what if that sand isn't sand?
Oh, stop it!
Stop it! Me, that's Titan.
I think he means when he crashes
it's him from the first Iron Man, yes. Yeah. But I think it's fun. It is funny to think about that.
Wait, do you mean that it's from Iron Man 1?
Yeah, he's talking about the part where he crashes the original Iron Man suit into the desert.
Yeah. He's joking, obviously.
If he skips it up before Ironmonger,
he's theorizing what if that was all just people he was surrounded by.
I was making fun of Screen Rant, but in all seriousness, he begins his story as Iron Man surrounded by sand. So there is a visual thing. I don't know.
Well,
maybe it's foreshadowing of some.
Well,
sort.
I think
as far as foreshadowing goes, when we mentioned Ultron, I don't think the vision he saw was representation of the snap. I think it's something else that's going to happen afterwards, because I think because the Russos have also said it's not how they bring these people back; it's what they're going to lose in the process.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I think what I was what I was pointing out is that, so I remember reading a lot of coverage from an author I won't name because people don't like him anymore. But you guys can ask me later on. But he wrote a lot about Ultron up until its release. He would talk a lot about behind the scenes and scripts that he read. And in all those scripts, they suggest that what she was showing Tony was actually a vision of the future. That it was not that, you know, he assumed it was like an illusion, but Tony took it as a real vision of the future, and that it was always intended from the Feige perspective and from Whedon's perspective at that time as being a true vision of what
I
was
wonder
done.
how
It was
matching
always
up
meant
the
to be
Thor
foreshadowed.
vision and what happens in Ragnarok is.
It's actually
It's pretty close because Idris Elba grabs him and says, "You are going to take us to hell," which is a very direct reference to Hela.
Yeah.
And he
You
says,
are a
like,
destroyer,
you will
Odin's
bring
son.
about the end of us. And like, he doesn't do it
Yes.
directly, but he kind of helps.
Yeah. Because the
And
only
he does, and his
Guardians
option to deal with Hela is, I can't beat this woman. We have to destroy Asgard. We have to bring out Surtur. Like, we have to blow this whole thing up.
as home is people, not place.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is if you look back at all the other visions, Black Widow's vision isn't a precursor to anything other than what we might see in her solo.
Yeah.
But if you look at Steve's vision, it's
he's home
with Peggy. Yes, and it really makes me think that they're gonna end it with Steve getting to go.
I have been asking for that since I realized that, like, once this time stone became a thing, I was like, this can't end with Cap dying. This has to end with him going home and live. Like, and I don't care. Like, if you want to give me the extra gut punch of having Tony going to visit a tombstone that says Steve Rogers because Steve Rogers has been maybe dead for, you know, whatever long, or maybe he's an old fucking man, like something along those lines, like a very Doctor Who-esque thing. Give it to me.
You can have your cake and eat it too, though, by you showing your gravestone. At the very end, you zoom back to a tree.
5 people are talking at once.
Hold on, one at a time. Arlen, you go ahead.
No, so you zoom back as Tony and the music is starting to swell, and behind a tree there's an old man with a cane, and he's wearing a hat like Steve does, and the glasses. And you, but yeah, because the idea is that he faked his death because he's probably gonna still look like he's, I don't know, 50.
Yeah.
When he turns
Can I throw like a weird wrench into all this that I've been thinking about?
Sure.
How much, if anything, do you think that the end thing in Guardians 2 plays in with Adam Warlock?
No.
I don't think that plays until much later. No.
Yeah, but no, they're not.
But
that's too much.
I feel like they would have had to play him in Captain Marvel or something, but that's in the past, so it wouldn't work. Like,
go ahead.
So here's the thing: a lot of people have talked about, why not just use the stones to like rewrite the universe, add in the X-Men? I don't think that's what does it. I'm kind of starting to think that Cap going back in time is what changes the timeline, and that's what the movies will be from here on out. We will see the Flashpoint.
You mean basically sending someone back in time to introduce his super enhanced genes into the genetic pool of people would have some kind of profound effect on people?
I think it's just as simple as Cap goes back
to Walt Chamberlain and mutants.
I know. I was going to say, Cap is going to fuck.
He goes back knowing a lot of things.
Cap, of course he's going to fuck. He hasn't yet.
Have you actually ever heard of that theory?
Yeah. Oh, him and Peggy are going to have 10 like super kids who are
Time out. Have you guys actually ever heard of the Walt Chamberlain theory?
No,
I know about that. Yeah.
Oh, basically, the reason why the NBA is so good now is because Walt Chamberlain was doing what he does in like the 60s and 70s.
Here's the problem with that, though.
Everybody got a little.
Why isn't metal better? Because that would apply to the Lemmy.
But that's why there's been like an increase in people over like 6'10". And
that's. I mean, and Wilt Chamberlain was probably over in Asia a few times, and that's why we got Yao Ming and people like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
I was gonna say something else.
But
yeah, like I think Cap going back in time changes the timeline significantly. Like it just would. Like there'd be no Hydra. He would stop that.
Unless he becomes
all
Hydra.
the things he would go God.
Well,
fucking
Arlen,
damn you.
with that theory in mind, like that would actually work really well for how to introduce the idea of the Fantastic Four, because I mean, a lot of people, like in older Marvel comics, and even when they're doing flashbacks, they talk about how he was the inspiration for a lot of people. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I could totally see how that would work for Fantastic Four. I don't know about mutants, but
Yeah, I don't think it does for mutants, but it does. It changes the universe enough. Like, remember, we were all convinced Supergirl was going to be entering the CW verse because of Flashpoint, and it's not really big enough to actually do that. But everybody was convinced of that anyways.
They
So,
still
like,
might.
And then
him driving
and then
back in
Flashpoint
time-
was such a fucking tepid event that still has no lasting effects.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter. But like time travel is, it's a very easy thing that you can say. Well, that changed a lot because we've seen it happen in movies. We've seen a Donald Trump like figure win the presidency in the future and in a movie, and we believe it because it's in a movie and they say time travel
Although
caused it.
it would be really
That-
interesting if like
that
all
would
this
never happen
happens,
in
they
real
come
life,
back and like Norman Osborn is the president.
That would be very interesting, actually.
That all depends on that Sony relationship and who bought who.
And
a sandwich.
also, like, let's say if Steve goes back, like you're telling me that like with him present, that people around the Super Soldier Project, like Howard Stark, you think that Steve, with his knowledge of what happens in the future, would allow Bucky to fucking murder him in the future? Like you'd probably
True.
change everything.
You also could introduce the idea of that they were creating more, like in his blood.
Yeah, that this project wouldn't die with Steve Rogers and Howard Stark. That this, like, whatever they were doing would move on to bigger and better things. Like first of all, and also, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are the result of genetic tampering with the Mind Stone.
yeah.
So this kind of thing is possible, and Cap refers to them as we have it enhanced in the field.
But that's
That means
before
there's
they
more
know
of
what they
those.
are.
Yeah. Well,
They just had to come up with a term.
But it could also be
But
again, to go back to that other Captain America's, like they could introduce, I can't remember his name, but the guy that was the grandfather of Patriot.
Yeah,
like US agent and all those characters that were like pseudo caps.
Yeah.
And there's also other little things like figuring out laws that have to concern superhumans. They can work that out because they'll have Captain America there to like actually write those laws. And I wouldn't be surprised if like we cut to him like running for like Senate or
whatever.
Oh my god!
They
would elect Captain America president in a fucking heartbeat.
No, what Lou just said, he would be the head of Shield. He would form Shield back in the 50s or 40s.
Yeah. And then you would have the rise of like superheroes around like in nations like Japan.
They actually have like a really good chance to, like, in one stroke, they kind of have a chance to undo a lot of the unfortunate ugliness that comes with this timeline we're in. Because if you send Steve back, like, he's gonna have maybe they send him back and like he doesn't retain the knowledge or whatever the fuck, or like maybe they send Steve back and he never enters the Super Soldier program, but then he wouldn't meet Peggy, so that kind of seems moot.
He somehow disables the dead and then he survives.
Yeah, or like, but like I think honestly it has more of an effect if Peggy is still assuming that he is dead in the ice, and he shows up anyway, and she's like, "This is impossible. You're dead." And he's like, "Well, someone gave me a second chance." Like, so I think
he becomes nomad in this thing, and he's just like a man without a country.
No,
and he wears a cape.
No,
and he runs around.
I said this months ago as a joke, but like, you don't ever see a picture of Peggy's husband ever.
But if you watch the show.
I know, but the show
is canon.
For most people, it's not. For me, it's canon. But if you're talking about Winter Soldier, you never actually see her husband.
Don't.
So
they never explicitly say in the show either. But like the only thing that gets really explained in the show is the Black Widow program, like way better.
Although the other thing that would make it really creepy, if let's say this time travel and he gets with Peggy does happen, that would mean that Sharon would have met him at some point, that
I think that, well, I mean, that's a good thing that can just go away now because he never doesn't know who Sharon is, and he never accidentally has the hot.
But that's what you're saying, though. That means if him going back in time erases anything that he did as Captain America, then you've got the time travel conundrum. you're creating a vacuum.
True.
Well, it's a
And you
tainted
can't-
universe. That's what it is. It's not the same
Okay.
universe.
I'm just
Okay.
saying it would be very interesting to do it that way.
To go back to Dragon Ball Z, it's the Trunks coming back to the past to defeat the androids.
Exactly. Or I mean, even Terminator. Like Terminator 2 is a different universe than Terminator 1. Like, we all know this. Like it's not the same
Kind of.
continuity.
And then Terminator
Because
Genisys
another
is also
came
its own.
back. Because the moment another robot comes back, that changes the time.
Well, that's the whole problem with
That's how
time
that
travel in
works.
general.
Yeah.
And any,
Yeah.
it's that whole Donnie Darko thing of like anytime you change the timeline, it's a tangent universe.
Yeah.
Because
It's
the first can't exist.
primer.
With the
Yeah, the moment a liquid metal robot touches ground in 1990, whatever, that timeline is different. It doesn't matter if he does anything;
Yeah.
he just has to be there, and that changes the timeline.
Yeah.
he
And
just needs
So,
Claire Danes' dad.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it changes what
Yeah.
John Connor looks like by the third movie.
exactly.
All right, do we want to move on to the next thing? Being that I
I think we should wrap soon because now we're steadily approaching 2 hours.
wow, yeah, well,
Oh,
we had a lot to
shit,
say
we
about
are.
a lot of things.
No, we're
Yeah,
an hour
well,
and a half,
there's-
actually. So
Do we want to
We can go
go
for a little
to
bit.
Ezra Miller and Grant Morrison thing? Because we have already touched on Idris Elba's Deadshot. I think we talked a little bit about Arrow ending in previous episodes.
I mean, Chang Chi, we don't really know much about the director. I
No.
haven't seen any of his stuff.
I just have
Other than,
I have thoughts.
I'm glad that it's
Sorry, go
happening.
ahead, Arnold.
Yeah, I'm glad it's happening. The Eternals thing was, they're trying to cast a gay lead, so like that's really all we need to say about them is like they're very clearly trying to make up for some diversity that they haven't had. So that's really the lead.
Lou, what were you going to say? Wait, hold on, Connor. Lou had something
Okay, go
to
ahead.
say.
Sorry.
I'll just say, well, quick Internals. They're like the stepchild of the ones from DC. But with Shang-Chi, I don't know what I want from that movie. As someone who's Asian, I'm just like part Asian.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
I think it's important that it's going to happen. I think that's step one.
Yeah.
So
but I don't want like a weird kung fu movie. Like in many ways.
No,
Like,
isn't he a bit more techie than that? And his abilities are a little more
no,
scientific.
he has no abilities. He's just a martial artist.
Yeah,
I
he's
completely
a master
misinterpreted
of
his role in
every-
fucking in
basically.
Hickman's Avengers.
Well, no,
Yeah.
well,
I
that
mean,
was
he is
Tony
Bruce Lee,
Stark
literally.
giving him some
Yeah.
tech upgrades.
Yeah.
No, he's a master of every known martial art.
In the best scenario, it would be John Wick without guns.
Turn him into Bruce Lee then. Just literally make him Bruce Lee
Oh.
because that's
That's kinda what he was-
he
yeah.
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just do that, and I think people will accept
he's
it.
based on
Yeah,
Bruce
but that's the
Lee.
thing. It's like that's a
But
really
let's-
weird road to dance on,
Well, I think they
and
saw
who to get an
how
actor as well.
they saw how well Black Panther did, and I mean, let's
I know.
be completely honest.
I
with
know
the way
know
Disney
exactly who to
is-
cast, and let me find his fucking name.
Is it Tony Jaa or is it?
No,
what's his
I'm
name?
No.
I'm not talking about casting, but I'm just
It-
saying,
man.
like, all right, so they saw how well Black Panther did, and they saw that it was a huge moneymaker, and also all the good press they got for representation of.
The thing is, like,
let me finish,
yeah.
please. Let me finish just one. But I also think they saw how well the movie Crazy Rich Asians was doing, and they saw the call for Asian representation, and I don't want them to just be like. I don't want them to be like, oh well, this is the Asian Black Panther. That's my big worry here.
that's my worry too. And like
Okay,
my
so
That's
the
fair.
actors I was thinking of, one I mistook for Chinese. He's South Korean. It is Lee Byung-hung, who played Storm Shadow in G.I. Joe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen him do other stuff.
How old is he now?
He is. Let me see, because he's a bit older. My second one, you'll probably be more into. He is
I like that
48,
guy.
so he's pushing 50.
Yeah, no.
old.
Okay,
He's
the
old.
second guy is
Yeah.
Jay Chow from Green Hornet.
Okay.
That was a while. That was
The
a
thing-
while.
The thing
He
is, though,
is
Pushing 40.
Fuck.
Yeah,
God
that's
damn
the
it.
problem.
These
is that
people
there's
age beautifully.
with
like
the,
Tony Jaa, I love, but he's fucking 45 or whatever
Yeah.
at this point.
the
And like
Marvel,
what's his name from Rogue One is like 50.
like
Yeah.
what Marvel will do is find somebody that's been in one or two things and have them under a pretty
Right.
strict regime of training, and get really good stunt work in.
Man,
Like,
even fucking, and I know
and then they'll hire Scott.
this is a bit. Hold on, this is my third one, and he's not Chinese. He's Indonesian. Was Iko Uwais, and he's fucking 36 too. God damn.
It's a thing. Like, you know, Asians are all tiny little people. I know my grandma was one, and they don't age. But here's my thing: is like I don't want it to be like Steven Seagal martial arts, where it's like getting through people. That's why I said like I want John Wick. Like I want a dude doing. That's why I said Tony Jaa. Like I want a dude doing Muay Thai and Jiu Jitsu.
That's why I went with these three guys, because I know Jay Chow and Iko Uwais are trained in something, and Byung Hung Lee, I've seen him do like preposterous stunt work. Like he's really good.
I get that, but I don't think they're going to go with a martial artist who acts. They want to go with an actor that they can mold.
I think the best way to do it is a martial artist, and you have him say 5 lines in the movie. Otherwise, he's silent. I feel like I don't think they'll.
I think they'll abandon this character.
Yeah, I don't think they'll go. I think they will. Like that's the problem with Asian characters, where you have to like balance this. This is a character made as a stereotype, and you have to balance the stereotype into 2019 with the comic book. Like it's a weird road to do.
And this goes back to representation, where Thor is not a clown in the comic books, and he is in the movies, but everything else is right. Like, you know, the fucking hammer, the look, the attitude, the strength, that's all right. You're going to have to make a concession somewhere and make this so the representation is accepting and welcoming to people without risking who the fuck the character is. Because Thor can be a clown. It doesn't really change who he is from the page to the screen. If Thor was, you know, fucking... I don't know, a warrior from a different set of mythology that we're familiar with, and you'd be making concessions, and he would no longer be Thor. You can't just go, it's Hercules, but he's Thor. Well, no, those are two different people. That's an extreme example, but honestly, I think with this, you have to be very careful.
Honestly, within Ragnarok, they kind of took elements of Hercules from the comics character, because he's kind of a clown, and mixed it with Thor. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, with Shang Chi, is like, do you make him like a kung fu Like, it really depends on the writing. Because, like, all right, is he like some dude that's traveling around the world because he's the greatest at his thing and just beating the shit out of people, or is he some weird Chinese like James Bond? Like, I don't know.
So then you walk the fine line of making him Ken Kenshiro from fucking Fist of the North Star and James Bond.
Yeah, like, is he a secret agent, or is he just a dude that's like traveling the world trying to find a challenge?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't really know much about him because he hasn't really been on prevalence.
He's a one-dimensional character.
Yeah, from the 70s, like back when Marvel was doing like magazine size. No, it's the truth. Like that's when he came out. Like,
but again, like, and we've beaten this horse to death. But like the Guardians were fucking nobodies before James Gunn got a hold of them. So I think it also matters about who they get to head this thing, because then it matters. Like. Yeah. You know, we don't know what their direction is going to be with this. We don't know what, like, I don't know too much about this director. I'm not even sure who it is off the top of my head. I think once you get a feel of how the direction is going to go, I think that's when you kind of form an opinion on whether this is a good idea or a bad idea.
To me, I would feel better if they got some like real like big name Hong Kong guy producing or helping writing something.
Oh yeah, that I'd be fine with. I think.
Yeah, I feel like that would put me at ease. Like they need like a big name like Hong Kong martial arts guy, like producer or writer in on this.
Honestly, I mean, like I would say get John Woo attached in some way.
What's the guy's name?
Don't let him direct and don't let him produce, but like make him consult.
What's his name that did Kung Fu Hustle?
Oh my God, Stephen Chow! Holy shit, let him direct this! Yeah. Oh my God,
give
it to Stephen Chow.
Well,
I'm like,
I wouldn't go that far, but he can.
I feel like if you
give him a pass.
I feel like if you had him, like then you could do some of the comedy bits, and people would not be bitchy about it because that's who he is. And it would work.
I do wonder if I do. That's the thing. I wonder what bits from different areas of film they would take. Like, there's a weird, very different sense of comedy in a lot of action movies, specifically Asian action movies. It's not American comedy. It's very specific. and I'm wondering like how they would try to translate that, and if they could.
I don't think they should though, because
Yeah.
I think they
Kung
need
Fu
to.
Master or Kung Fu Hustle, like it's a completely different thing. That's why, like, I would want one of those guys to be heavily involved.
Yeah, I think
fair.
they need to make this something of its own. Like they can't fall into the tropes of Hong Kong action films, or even like more Western versions of Hong Kong action films that started to come out in like the mid '90s and early 2000s. Like,
He's also a character that's hard to make like a full movie out of, unless you make him.
I do agree.
He's better.
I do agree. Yeah, but with Marvel's style though, they're not going to be unable. They kind of have to address some of it. That's just how they.
Unless you make a oh my god, what is the movie where the guy fights through all the levels of the apartment building?
Oh,
Game
the
of
Raid.
Death?
The
Raid.
Yeah, Raid.
The Raid, that works. But it's
You take a character we know nothing about, because you know nothing about what's his face in the Raid. He's a nobody. He's part of a big team. You take a character you know nothing about, who's essentially a blank slate, and you basically build him throughout like a serious physical turmoil through 2 hours.
Yeah,
I'm 110% into that, because
you connected to the universe by saying he's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they're going into a building and they're like low-level Marvel villains, like on the same level as Bones or whatever.
Crossbones.
You have them like low-level AIM or low-level Hydra.
But then they get there and they're like, this situation is far more fucked than we realize. And he is stuck in that building and he has to fight his way out. Yes.
Like,
and some like real like big level super villain is hiding there that we don't know about. You know, someone big, like not this character, but like Doc Ock.
Yeah.
Big,
and
like,
a thing at the end where it's that very Asian thing where it's like, oh, he finds. Is that like Dragon Ball Z type thing where it's like, oh, he somehow finds like some other level to tap in. Like he learns to harness his chi in like last moments.
Right.
Yeah, because in this situation has pushed him to the point where like there's no other option but to, or like it's latent and he like this trauma has brought it out of him. That's how Goku became Super Saiyan was Frieza had to fucking kill his best friend.
It could also be a way to introduce. They wouldn't even have to mention anything about Danny Rand, but even just mention something about Shao-Lao.
Yeah,
there you go.
Like,
or they could really like connect the movies and the TV shows.
They won't.
More
it's like something. It's like it's a building where Hydra and the Hand are trying to combine forces.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay,
you just have to make
before we write a whole fucking movie, do you guys want to talk about Ezra Miller and Grant Morrison real quick, and then I guess we can call it a night?
You're on a
because this is a very strange story, because I guess like it's a multi-step story. DC seeks to recast Ezra Miller's Flash. Ezra Miller, I know some people have had some opinions about him in the last year. He's fine. Like. He made a documentary from the perspective of the guy who shot, was it Michael Brown?
No,
he made a documentary.
That was actually completely incorrect.
It was okay.
Yes,
see, I forget the details of the story too.
It was horribly misquoted and misreported. Yeah.
Okay. All right then. Fuck it. Who cares? We weren't address it then. Ezra Miller fucking loved The Flash, and I know this just by looking at him during some of the Justice League promotional material. There's a video where someone came on. He brought a bunch of fans on stage, and one of them showed up dressed as Reverse Flash, and he fake punched him.
It would have actually been better if he just like gave him an elbow to the face.
Yeah. He really, really digs this character, and I really feel for people getting recast at this point, because it's not the case of Ben Affleck, who just got fucking disenfranchised and is a megastar and wanted to leave. Like Ezra Miller probably doesn't mean anything to Warner Brothers, and they're probably like, "Who cares if we recast you? Nobody gives a fuck about the Flash."
Yeah, they've only had 4 years and 7 directors.
Yeah, but he basically, in an attempt to stay on as star, is offering to write the script, and he has enlisted Grant Morrison to help him write the script.
I'm conflicted on this.
That is a fucking power move if I've ever seen one.
I'm so conflicted on this though. I'm so conflicted.
Is Grant Morrison is God?
I'll say this: if there's any team other than just rehiring the fucking Spider-Verse dudes.
Lord and Miller.
Why
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Just hire them back. But other than them, if there are any two people who I can think of that would respect Flash and like do something I've said for a long time, which is actually have our Flash go to the CW Flash and like we see a cameo from Grant Gustin. Please do this, please, please, please. I want this so badly.
Make Ezra early Wally West.
Yeah, like he goes there and he's like, "Where am I?" And he's like, "I'm guessing you just crossed universes for the first time. It happens to all of us."
You're from Earth 23.
Yeah, or something like that. Well, I think he would say you're from Earth 3.
That's the Earth with.
I know that's the joke that the Snyder Earth is the.
Also, to add to this, like if you're gonna get someone who could properly, like he would have to tone himself down. But if there's someone who gets the Speed Force, like without question, it's probably Grant Morrison.
Well, because
because you can hand that concept to him in a writer's room, and he'd go, "I can break this down for you into fucking simple words."
He's the guy who tried multiversity. He has the map,
and he's
literally.
And he's never disrespected a character that he's worked on, as far as I know. Like he's changed things and he's done things.
Weirdly, he's like the guy that has his hands on almost every live action thing, but is not. He's not like represented in like the credits. Besides Happy,
because
like biggest. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say like Doom Patrol, the Teen Titans, like his stuff with Superman. His stuff.
Well, he didn't do a Teen Titans run. That wasn't him at all. He didn't have anything to do with Teen Titans.
I think I meant Doom Patrol.
Okay. Well, my biggest concern though is that I love Grant Morrison. I unapologetically love him. He is one of my favorite writers when it comes to comics. I worry about his ability to write a script that can be coherent and not 400 pages.
Okay, well that's why I think him being with someone who works in Hollywood, who I think has written before. I'm not positive, but I'm sure Ezra Miller is around enough people who can tell him how to write a script, and I'm sure through that Ezra can look at Grant Morrison and go, "Okay, take it a step back. Take a few steps back."
Well, that's why the only Grant Morrison official thing that's on on anything is Happy.
Yeah.
It's the only thing his name is.
And they've taken some liberties with that story because it's having a second season, which shouldn't be possible. And how heavily involved in it is he? Like, is he in just the executive producer role? Yeah, which is basically the like, hey, you made this, let's give you a little more money.
Yes,
like that's.
I think he's sending them tapes of recordings of him meditating.
Just into the Speed Force.
And they're interpreting what those tapes have on them as best
on
as they
on the flip side of that coin of me having trepidation, I would love it so much if this comes out and it is so good, because he and Mark Millar had a run on the Flash, and this would be him being like, hey, Mark Millar, guess what? Because Mark Millar has not had a successful DC movie adaptation yet.
I mean, like, here's my thing. Because I want this movie to happen so fucking badly, I don't give a fuck how they do it at this point. Provided it's not just, like, a slapdash, like, let's just get it done and call it a day kind of thing. If someone like the Star has to resort to finding, like, a super heady, dead serious comic book writer to get this movie to come alive, then yes, let's fucking do it.
Yeah. I mean, as long as this movie actually happens, because up until this, I thought this movie was dead. I thought it was DOA.
Yeah, I can't even remember.
Well, I think this is the last-ditch effort to save it in the form that it would have been, like the closest way to the form it would have been. Because
I think that's the only way they allow you to contact.
If this doesn't happen, and if Ezra Miller doesn't get his way, then we're just gonna get a new Flash, and we're gonna get like I think whatever idea was before will be jettisoned, and we'll get something brand new. Like.
Well, that or I do think that they will bring Lord and Miller in regardless. Like, I think that this is the first draft of their starting over, because my understanding is that they're jettisoning everything that they wrote before. But I think Lord and Miller come in at some point.
Wasn't there like some weirdness with the Wonder Woman where like it's not a sequel? It's like all new characters. I feel like somebody said that with Wonder Woman.
Now here's the thing.
Like, before, they were saying it's not really a sequel. It's like a standalone. It's like
it's a sequel.
Characters retold.
Here's the thing, like,
what's her name?
you can't get away with that now that Aquaman came out and they directly referenced Justice League. Like,
Yeah.
That sounds like
Yeah,
marketing
well, I'm saying,
bullshit,
yeah,
honestly.
no, I know
That
that, but I'm saying like they came out and said that like this week.
This is what's his nuts saying, "Hey, I'm not making a sequel to Watchmen. I'm making a sequel to Watchmen."
Yeah.
Here's the thing: the only person in charge over at Warner Brothers that I care about is the guy from New Line who took over running the DC stuff. Everybody else, I don't give a fuck about what they say. I don't care about what Kevin Sujihara has to say. He can go back to running fucking roller coasters and imagining new theme park rides for all I care, or never work again, because people who run theme parks should not be running movie studios.
You say that like that's a known thing.
It should be a known thing. We know because Kevin Sujihara has been running Warner Brothers for the last however many years he's been running Warner Brothers, and there's been a very obvious decline.
You
in
say
quality.
that like everybody agrees.
Everybody
They should.
agree,
It's common sense. But no, I want this movie to happen, and I don't mean to rush things along, but like my guts are gonna explode if we don't finish this episode soon.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Yeah.
We'll have more stuff to talk about later on another episode.
Yes,
perhaps.
when the news week isn't stuffed and bursting at the fucking seams with stuff that we absolutely have to talk about.
This week would have been
some of this was left,
and this week would have been a little bit easier to handle if the James Gunn thing hadn't happened.
Oh, that changed.
Yeah.
Well, Marvel just decided that we're just gonna lay it on this week.
Yeah.
We're
Like
just gonna
one
fucking-
other like kind of meaty thing to talk about, which is Arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that a little bit.
But I also that
we don't
would
have
lead directly into a conversation about Crisis on Infinite Earths, and like I don't have the fortitude right now to do that conversation.
No, yeah, I feel like we can just feel like our
fair.
feelings on Arrow the end.
You briefly, like a one sentence, 8 seasons is the fucking perfect number to go out on for this show. It's just like it's how I feel with Breaking Bad.
Sure.
5 seasons was perfect. Legion 3 seasons perfect. Like I don't feel like you've been around for too long, and I don't feel like I've just gotten to know you. Like I think this is very adequate.
That was
getting to 10 is nice, though.
Yeah.
Like, say what you will about Smallville, but they made
Well,
it to 10 seasons.
Yeah,
so
well,
that's not disputable. So-
when Amel was on Rosenbaum's podcast, which was like the second episode, like they talked about being on 10 seasons and all that stuff, and he talks about how much he hated being in like the shape he needs to be in because it's just brutal. And he was just like 10 is definitely the limit, and so like I still thought it was going to be 10, but
I was convinced.
The 7.5 makes sense.
I think it's very much a Robert Downey Jr. talking about playing Iron Man, like as we got closer to Infinity War, saying like, I'm getting too old to be doing these movies. And Stephen Amell is definitely much more physically present in Arrow, so I don't blame him for
that. And like here, he is younger. I think he is very much in the prime of his career because like he's from this point he was a star of a TV show for 8 seasons. Like he can kind of go do a lot with this, and I think like now that he's experienced enough but still young enough, he's gonna go do other shit. And I don't think he wants Ninja Turtles 2 to be the legacy of this film.
No, he did one other movie. Yeah, I think he did a movie with Bette Midler where he played like her son.
Great. That's I might have to watch that.
I'm pretty sure it's a comedy, and I think, oh my god, what's his name? That was Green Hornet, wasn't it?
Seth Rogen.
Yes.
I like how of all the things Seth Rogen has done, you're like, the one guy who was Green Hornet.
Well, because no one else was Green Hornet that's worth to talk about.
I don't remember the actor's name, honestly. The original one.
Fair.
I try to black it out as best as I can.
But yeah, I'll go ahead, Arlen. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you.
I was just gonna say, like, I haven't been watching Arrow nearly as long as you guys have. Like, I've jumped in on season 5, season 6, something like that. Season 6, and just seeing where it's at as a TV show, I think speaks volumes for Stephen Amell. Like, I think he has so much potential ahead of him. And I think ending the series when they're ending it is probably the best possible choice that they could make and that he could make for himself.
Yeah, you don't want to. I think it's Captain Steve Rogers, fucking Chris Evans said, like, you want to be on the train long enough, but not too long where they kick you off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And,
so I think
and if he was to leave, like, just be like, hey, I'm done, my contract's up, like, the show would be dead. It'd be dead in the water. No one wants to watch.
No, they can definitely write the good ending now.
He also specifically said, the show is ending, but I will not be gone forever, and you will at some point see me again.
Yeah, right.
You mean
unless Arrow took a really interesting turn and turned into a romance between
and
Mr.
we're done.
Terrific.
That's it. That is it. We're done. I am signing off. Movie Dumpsters, St. Patrick's Day episode's out. It's Luck of the Irish. That movie was fucking torturous, and it talks at both sides of its stupid face. Because it's somehow about how the Irish suffered, but it's also about how it's fucking dandy to be a goddamn American. And then at some point, a black character chimes in about slavery. It's very strange and very tone deaf.
For a second,
I must have blocked
the main
out.
villain. Oh, it's because it's a singular line, and it's about how it's an exchange between how when Irish Americans got here, they took jobs nobody wanted them, blah blah blah. And then in the middle of that conversation, this black kid goes, "At least they got paid." To no reaction, and then this just continues. It was painfully awkward. Also, the villain looks too much like Robbie Rotten for me to take him seriously. And the whole movie's very bizarre and treats Irish people like cartoon characters, and I was not happy during the entire thing. And I'm glad we skewered it, and I'm glad I never have to sit through it ever again. I'm also glad I'll never have to see that actor ever again, because I understand he did like 50 more Disney Channel original movies, and I haven't seen him since. But yeah, that's out. Bleeders is out. That's what Rutger Hauer, who is somehow cosplaying as future Harrison Ford. It's very, very strange. Even he directly quotes him from Force Awakens. It's very strange. Someone asks him if he was Doctor, and he pulls up his pants and goes, "I used to be." Bleeders is out, and we were watching Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows Monday, and that episode will be out later this week. And I have shit tons of trivia to pack into that episode, because that movie was apparently savaged by the studio who produced it. It was supposed to be a satire, and it's supposed to be kind of a commentary on how people became obsessed with the first Blair Witch Project, and to the point where they were convinced it was real, and they were descending upon that small town. And it was supposed to be a movie about that, and instead it's a dumb horror movie with gore that doesn't make any sense, and an ending that is completely nonsensical.
Yeah, but if you rewind it and watch it...
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to put us down a tangent, but this is a really interesting thing you can talk about on that show. So one of the original pitches for Blair Witch 2 was a movie that takes place in Burkittsville in the 1600s, and it was going to be filmed with natural lighting, and it was going to be about a female character, and there was going to be a witch in the wilderness that you never really saw, but it was a presence, and it was there. And stop me when this starts to sound kind of familiar. So yeah, that's a little interesting thing.
Kidding me?
Yeah, they were basically gonna make the Vitch a couple years.
Oh, I was gonna say the Bitch footage.
No. No. Okay, my plugs. Monster Mash podcast comes out on a monthly basis with me and Hunter Davenport. We talk about monsters with some of the people who have been on the show. So yeah, listen to that. Andy Sitz might be on the next one. I don't know. If not, we'll just do an episode with Lou.
I was gonna say, like, Puppet Master, cat people.
I mean, we could talk about the Coppola Dracula.
God. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, look out for that. Lost Horror podcast comes out every single week. I have no idea what the episode that just came out. No, actually I do. We talked about Umbrella Academy and a little bit of Captain Marvel, because we're not talking about them on this show. So yeah,
I really liked it. My wife loved it.
I'm Erik Fedorchak. You can find me at Erik_Fedor on Instagram. There are pictures of dogs and cats and food and comics. I recently posted the stuff I picked up on my birthday haul. And yeah, you can find me on the Phantom Zone. I'm floating around there. I will talk to you about comics, and I will also just laugh at you and just laugh so hard about the fact that you're still trying to act like what James Gunn said was somehow offensive.
That's not at anyone in particular.
And also, I'd also like to talk about how Mad Dog was saying, "Oh my Curtis,
God fucking
your
damn you.
T-sphere."
God
Lou
fucking
hasn't
damn
even
you.
done his plugs yet.
Do your plugs and then get us out of
so
here. Get us
Every
out.
Tuesday, me and Alan do Smallville Chronicles. Our next episodes, we watched Asylum and Whisper, which has the return of Jonathan Taylor Thomas and a character referred to as Ku Klux Klan.
Oh no!
Yes, and
No.
that played Iceman in the X-Men movies. Yes, because everybody was in goddamn Smallville.
I was in Smallville at some point. Probably,
there's a character who, the bad guy of the week, is now the star of the CBS show FBI. Was a one-off villain.
Wow, what an original title for
I might have to join the show when Jensen Ackles
Oh,
shows
God.
up. I realized this.
That is the worst ever. Feel free. I hate it. Every Thursday we have And Now Comics, where we're talking about comics. Yeah. The last episode we talked about the worst and best costume redesigns, which was really fun because it was just like, oh, the 90s, that one. Like, oh, what do you call that thing that's like a head help? Like it's not a cow. They have their cheeks covered, but it goes around their forehead. The Gambit thing.
Oh, I don't even. That's such a '90s fucking trope.
my.
Like,
Yeah,
Gambit looks like an artifact when you look at him. You're like, what the fuck is he wearing? Like,
like their faces out. Like it makes no
yeah,
sense.
it offers no protection. It's just there to hide the fact that like somebody didn't want to draw ears.
Yeah, it covers their ears. It's a Rob Liefeld.
Right.
And then every Thursday, part of Lost Horror podcast, Empire, we have Legion of Tunes. The next episode is Siler's Pick, which we are watching Ranma 1/2.
Oh geez.
Oh,
Ow,
yes.
that's a deep pull.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Doing deep cuts. Our last episode was Prince of Egypt, which was Alan's pick.
Okay.
Which was
That kind
that
of
makes
makes sense. Yeah.
A movie I've never seen.
Yeah,
it is
that's a very
Yeah.
Alan
gorgeous.
pick.
It is. And the casting, the voice cast is amazing. Val
So
Kilmer
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah, it is like that. It turned into us being like, "Oh, what happened to 2D animation?" Oh yeah, there was like,
I watched that movie a
There's
lot
like,
as
oh,
a child.
yeah, you look at the IMDb, it's like, oh, there's like 4 movies that killed the entire idea, which is like Atlantis, Titan AE, and there's like one other one.
Oh, good God.
Spirit.
It's like 4 movies.
The movie about
Dream-
the
quick,
horse.
oh god.
DreamWorks and Disney invested in like 4 movies, and it killed the entire industry.
Quick side note about Atlantis.
Well, one particular.
Oh, I was just gonna say, quick side note
Yeah,
about
go
Atlantis was Mike Mignola did the initial sketches for the concepts,
that's
yeah,
right.
concept sketches for that movie,
That makes so much
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Because of
Yeah.
and
Dream-
Michael J. Fox shook all the paint.
God, fucking
All right, we can leave on that
God
fucking
damn
foghorn
it.
of a note.
Horror.wordpress.com.
All right, goodbye,
Review.
everybody.
But I don't know if I can fit those T-spheres in there.
Nope, 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 nope,
God,
nope,
you're
nope,
so
nope.
annoying.
I know. My wife just bought a plant today called the Wandering Jew, so that's all I'll say. It's a real name of a plant.
Bye.